Hello, learners. Welcome to this segment of ours today. I am your instructor, CPA Ringo Frederick, and today I'm very excited because we are going to share something new compared to what we've been doing. And today's session, I'll want us to learn something about data analysis. Data analysis. Data analysis. Data analysis is one of the changing patterns when it comes to business intelligence, and is always very vital that you as an accountant, you should be having a clear knowledge of data analysis, where in this case there are so many tools that we normally tend to use to doing data analysis, which includes the aspect to do. We normally tend to have Python, basically just to automate our big data. We normally tend to have R program, which we normally use to analyze our data, and finally we normally tend to have SQL. SQL, basically this is for database. And some of these concepts we can always tend to use Excel as well, basically to prepare our data in a way that we normally refer to it as data visualization. I know majority of us, you've heard of what we normally refer to as data visualization. Data visualization. Ideally, the whole, it is been proved that human beings, it has been proved that human beings, basically, you will find that as at the end of the day, it is always very easy to understand the data that has been presented in a pictorial format other than just some figures and all that, right? Where you'll find that if you can check the figures, you want to analyze the data in terms of figures, at times the eyes might get bored. But if the data has been prepared in a way that it is in a pictorial format, it will be very easy for you guys to follow and understand the concept clearly. Even you as an investor, it will be very easy for you to follow and understand the whole concept easily. So today I want us to do a very simple assignment whereby we are looking at it practically. You're given sales data in a particular company. This sales data is for the whole year. Many a times you'll find that you can be having more than 10,000 transactions. Take a good example, and I'm not marketing them. Take a good example of Jumia, right? Jumia in this case, they normally tend to have a lot of transactions even in a month's time, right? So in this case, you'll find that you as an accountant, ideally it will be so traditional if you are to kind of analyze this data manually. Ideally, the accounting system that you're having, basically it will give you the forms of report. But when you want to analyze this data in depth, you have to have a knowledge of what? Data analysis. So that is what I'll want us to do. This is a very simple assignment. The first case, I'll want us to do it in a traditional way that I know all of you guys, you have an idea of. And this analysis is basically, we want to analyze this data to give us a report in form of a quarterly report, to give us a report in terms of monthly report as well as a daily report, whereby we are going to see which month are we making more, talk about which quarter did we generate more, talk about which days do we normally tend to sell more. It is a very simple data that we are going to use, of course extracted from our company's data. Very practical, very practical. So in this event, what you have to be very keen with whenever we are talking about analyzing data in Excel, in such an event, you have to be very good with the SUMIF function. I don't know if some of you, or rather I know majority of you, you've heard of SUMIF function. SUMIF function, SUMIF function, SUMIF function. So this is a function that we are going to use basically to analyze this data of ours, and you'll find that we normally apply the criteria to one range and sum the corresponding values in a different range, in that I just want to pick a certain, is kind of creating a rule to pick specific data in a given criteria that I'm going to select. That is when you normally tend to use SUMIF. So it is a very powerful tool. It is a very powerful tool in Excel, which you are going to see how we normally tend to use the SUMIF function. So talking of that, where you'll find that SUMIF has so many functions. So at this point, let us start working. This data of ours, first of all, I need to determine our total cells, which will enable us to be able to identify or basically to give us a form of a base of comparison. So determination of our total cells, I'll be having my total cells, which in this case, we are going to use the normal function that you are all familiar with, the auto sum, right? So I need to get my total cells. So basically, I'll be having my total cells, which in this case, I'm having that. Then quickly, we can check it has run up to which period. That is, of course, cell 102. So basically, I'll be having 102 here, right? So I'm having 102. I understand there are easier way that we can always work this one out. So I'm having C102, C102. Remember at this point, it's not all about how good you are in shortcuts. Data analysis, as much as these concepts of shortcuts will be very important for us to have, but data analysis is not always about how good you are in shortcuts, but it is very important for you to be good in terms of knowing what you're doing. So it's not about how good you are in shortcuts, right? Anyone can be good in shortcuts, Excel shortcuts, but the main concept is how good are you in analyzing your data. That's the most important thing that you need to learn. So after we've determined our total cells, I'll want us to categorize our analysis in terms of month, quarter, and daily. So in this case, let us start with monthly cells. I want us to identify our monthly cells. So I'm having our month, and of course you're having our monthly cells. We're having our monthly cells here, monthly cells. So in this case, our month, of course, I'm going to base it on the items that I'm having here, month, and make sure that, like this is a command that you're giving. So the format that you've used in your month is the same format that you're going to use while analyzing your data here. Because if at all you use a different format, you'll find that that rule will reject. It won't pick the same. It will give you a false. Simply because at this point, you're giving it a command. So assuming that maybe here I'm using January, and at this point maybe I'd used Jan. So at this point you'll find that it won't pick the correct rule, because these are two different information when it comes to analyzing our data. These are two different information. So we're going to use the same format, like we are talking of January. I'm having February here. We're having Feb. We're having March. We're having, of course, April, believing that April is the same format that you're using, April. I'm having May. Talk about July, or rather May. We're having June. Talk about July here. Should be the same format. Talk about August. Talk about September. Talk about October. Talk about November. Talk about December. So basically these are our months. What we want to do is to analyze our data. Remember, you're having a huge data, say like 10,000 transactions. In this event, you'll find that it will be very unrealistic for you to pick them one by one. Say like the normal way you normally tend to do, like what other guys will do. You'll come and select the period, January, then you do the summation. That will take a lot of time. Today I want to show you a very simple shortcut, okay? So for monthly sales, this is what you're supposed to do. I'm going to have my function, which is a SUMIF function. So basically, I'll be having a SUMIF function. I just double click, right? So you'll find that on this case, I'll be having my range. Range basically is what you're giving a rule to arrange this data in form of what? Monthly, right? So I'm having a range, which is basically January to December, which you've seen is basically E102, right? So that is what I'm having as our range. Criteria, I want to base it on month concept. That is, it should pick my data in terms of what? On a monthly basis. It should pick my data in form of my monthly basis. And look at the sum range. Sum range basically is what I want to pick. That is, I want to pick the sales, total sales monthly. So I'm having, of course, that is a C102. So at this point, you'll find that it has picked my data, which will tell me that my total sales for all January, depending, my total sales in January, I'm having a figure of 34,000. That is what it has picked, right? So let me freeze my data. By freezing we want to freeze our range and sum range so that the same command should pick in all the other months, other than just us doing on a monthly basis. It will be very important that, again, we should learn how to do our work easier, right? So I'm going to freeze this data. By freezing my range, I'm going to click F4. Then I'll also be required to freeze my sum range, which in this case, I'm going to click F4. So basically, in that case, I've locked it out. And that is to say, in the event that if I drag, it will pick the same command. So that if I drag it down, it will give me the same command, which is telling me that the month of January, I'm having 34,000. February, my total sales monthly. So this is the first analysis that we've done in terms of what? In terms of analyzing our data on a monthly basis. And recall, we're only using what? We're only using SUMIF. We're only using SUMIF. We're only using SUMIF. So that is very important. We have it there. Okay. Then the other area, or rather our other area of analysis, is we've said you can also analyze it on a quarterly basis, right? You can also analyze it on a quarterly basis. So on a quarterly basis, what will you be required to do? The same concept will apply. At this point, I'm going to have now my quarter. So I'm having, this is a quarter. Okay, I'm having my quarter. Then you're having our quarterly sales. So I'm having my quarterly sales. Okay. So maybe you can insert that, or rather you can just do then Control+. That is a shortcut that you can use. So having that case, I need my quarter, which in this case we are talking of quarter 1 to quarter 4. So we're having quarter 1. I'm having, of course, quarter 2. I'm having, of course, quarter 3. I'm having, of course, quarter 4. So we need to command this data of ours that it should give me my data in terms of the total sales per quarter. So how are we going to do that? The same concept will apply. We use SUMIF function, whereby I'll be having equal sign, SUMIF function, where my range, now our range is quarterly, right? Quarterly basis, so I'll be having that. Of course, that is F102. Then I'll be having my criteria now is quarterly. So I select my criteria. That is what I'm going to select. Then, of course, comma, I need to pick this data in terms of sales. So I'll be having my sales there. In this case, you're having 102, right? So once we are done with that, you'll find that it will give me my quarterly sales. So quarter 1, I'll be having 71,400. The same case, instead of us doing it one by one, I can just freeze my range and sum range, where by freezing, I click F4. Then in this case, again, I click F4. I click F4, okay? So basically, that will give me my data, then I can just drag it down there. So in this case, I'm having our sales. We're having our sales in terms of a quarterly basis. It has been arranged on a quarterly basis. So the same concept, my good students will find that probably I'll also need to arrange this data of hours in terms of what? In terms of daily basis. So that is a weekly. So we can take weekly. So we're having, of course, our days of the week, or rather maybe I can just have week, then weekly cells. We're having weekly cells, okay? Weekly cells. So having that case, the same concept will apply. I should be having Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm having Wednesday, talk about Thursday, talk about Friday, of course Saturday, and of course Sunday. So that is what you're having here. That is what you're having here. Now, looking at our weekly cells, the same concept will apply. Again, I'm going to use SUMIF. Talk about SUMIF. Now, my range, now I know you can guess what our range will be, right? So our range this time around, I'm going to talk of what? Weekly, which in this case is daily. Then, of course, I'll be having it to, that is, of course, D1 or 2 to pick everything. Then my criteria this time is days of the week, right? Then I'm having my cells, which in this case, that case should give us what? 1 or 2. I do it like that, so that as at the end of the day, I'm going to freeze this data of ours, right? F4, then I'm having this data which you need to freeze, I'm having F4. So after that case, I can now determine my total. And clearly at this point, I can present this data to my boss that at this point, given the big data that you're given me, I've summarized these concepts in a way that you can understand. January, these are our sales. Talk about quarterly, this is what I'm having quarterly. Then weekly, you can also be able to determine on a weekly basis how much are we making. Monday, this is the total that you made. Tuesday, this is the total that you made till Sunday. So basically on this case, I can easily pick the day that we normally tend to make more sales, or the month that we make more sales. Try to understand why do you normally tend to make these sales on this monthly, and therefore that is when, or rather the month or day that we should maximize and put every resources within this month to make sure that we are maximizing our sales. We need also to identify the month that you're making lower sales. Why are we making these sales, or rather why do we having low sales in this month, and how can we prevent this and this? You see, the whole concept is all about analyzing our data. The whole concept is all about analyzing our data. Now, this is not enough. Talking about visualization, talking about data visualization. In this case, we are going to do it traditionally before we proceed to the pivot table, how to use pivot table, and how to analyze our data on the same. So in this case, maybe just do it traditionally. At this point, I want to present it in a pictorial format, whereby I can either use graphs, so I just insert, maybe I need to use 3D, right? So in this case, you can have it here. So this is monthly sales. Probably I can decide to use that data of mine. In this case, maybe I can as well as try to, so basically this is what we're having. So maybe that is our monthly sales that you're having. You can decide to select either graph of your choice. Others will pick that, so others will pick that. So it purely depends with the data of your choice, with the data of the graph that you're going to select of your choice. So once I'm having that, I can also decide to determine this in terms of percentages, right? So the same case, I'll just be taking my data. Let me have my pie chart right now. So we can have our pie chart here. That is, of course, we can have our pie chart at this point. Maybe I need the 3D. In this case, probably you can select either that I will wish to have. Design, it purely depends upon you, right? Design, this one will purely depends upon you, which design will you wish to select. which design will you wish to select. So maybe you can go with a percentage, right, to enable us to also know which month were we having the highest percentage and all that. So basically I'm having that. So I can clearly say that probably on all this, I can see that on in August is when we had quite, not in August, 17% is, 17% you can clearly see is in October. We had quite a number of sales, 17%, right? Analyzing our data simply. The same case, I can decide to work it out on a quarterly basis. So I'll just insert my graph, 3D. I'm having, I can pick either that I need. Say for example, maybe in this case, maybe I need this one. I can decide to change our fill. I want, say, like to have a different color, right? Data visualization, so that in the event that you're presenting this data to either any interested party, you'll find that it will be very easy, and in that case my eyes won't feel boring, right? Data visualization. So these are quarterly sales. So you can clearly see that probably in quarter 2 is when I had a lot of sales. Right? The other key element may be the same case. You can do it on a pie chart basis. We do this last one before we proceed to pivot table. So I'm having a pie chart. We can decide to select either of our pie chart. In this case, I need to select my data quarterly. Okay, so I'm having that. I want to select, say, like my quarterly sales. In terms of we said that we need a pie chart. So you can select my pie quarterly sales. In this case, to indicate whatever that I'm having, which quarter did we make higher sales than the other one. So basically I'm having this here. So you'll find that basically I can do this, I can manipulate this data in everything that I need. So like in this case, I'm having yellow is quarter 27%, 29% is gray, which is quarter 3. I'm having, of course, 30%, which is quarter 2, which will correspond with what I'm having here, the highest sales. So this is how we can manipulate our data. You see, from this boring data of values and figures, I'm having this pictorial format presentation, which I can easily follow. In this case, of course, any other person can easily follow. So this is just one way, and at this point, Makumi, we've used traditional ways of preparing our, or rather of analyzing our data. So in the next class, I want us to use the same data, but our focus will be in terms of what we'll be using pivot table. You'll see how easy it is to use our pivot table. To this point, I'll want to end this session of ours today. I believe you've learned something. And in the event that you need more classes for data analysis, we have our location. You can either do both in person or virtual training. For in person, you can always visit us at our college, which is located in Nairobi town, CBD, along Moi Avenue. The building is Mageso Chambers, mezzanine floor. In that case, just go there, ask Mdarasa. You'll be directed to our college. For virtual training as well, you can always contact us. You can reach us on our number, official number, which is 07. Let me use, because I know all of us you're watching, +254 708 068 851. You can always reach us on this number, and we'll always be here to assist you guys. So to this point, thank you so much, and let us meet in our next session, whereby we are going to analyze this data of ours using pivot table. Thank you so much, guys, and see you next time. Bye.